Okay guys, so I'm here right now at the construction site of the first ever mosque in the Lake District, and thus far the site's been open around 6 weeks, with it being estimated it could take around 18 months to complete in full. And if you'd like to contribute to this project, then go to launchgood.com/helpolly.
The tunnelling of Hamas, and we must recognise that Israel is facing a huge existential crisis. 1,300 people dead, murdered, babies raped. And again,
controversy seems to cling to David Lammy and the Labour Party like a shadow. Since stepping into power, headlines have rarely been free of their name, and not for the right reasons. But now, a new storm is brewing, and it's gaining momentum fast. Surprisingly, it's not Lammy's jaw-dropping £1,200,000 sterling in private jet travel, though that alone has turned plenty of heads. This time, the backlash is centred on something even more alarming, a controversial move involving one of Britain's most beloved and tranquil treasures, the Lake District, and it's sparking national outrage.
Assalamu alaikum, Robert Carr here reporting for 5 Pillars. Now I have arrived on the site, the construction site for the new super humongous mega humongous masjid that's apparently being built here. Now I can confirm there is a masjid being built here, but it's not quite the project that's being described in right-wing circles. We're going to be reporting on it for 5 Pillars. I'm speaking to my man here, Ollie, who is a local, who is involved in the project, and who is also a convert to Islam, who is looking to set the record straight about the project, the intentions behind it, what it's really all about, and to respond to all of the right-wing hate and misinformation that's being peddled online surrounding this project. So stay tuned, watch on 5 Pillars our exclusive coverage, which is coming to you in the near future, of the mega masjid that's being built in the Lake.
High-budget construction project, backed by deep pockets and big ambitions, was supposed to be progressing at full throttle. But instead of bulldozers and building crews, there's silence. Materials aren't being delivered, groundwork has stopped entirely, and the reason has even stunned the developers themselves. This isn't a government freeze or a tangle of legal red tape. What's unfolding is far more unexpected. A quiet revolt. A growing number of British construction workers are refusing to take part in building a multi-million-pound Islamic centre in the heart of the Lake District. What's driving this widespread boycott? Why are local suppliers distancing themselves? And why are so many people across the UK actually applauding their decision? Let's unpack what's really happening. It's rare to see everyday tradesmen rise up in protest, but that's the reality unfolding in one of Britain's most serene regions. The proposed £2,500,000 sterling mosque and community centre has hit a wall, not because of funding, but because contractors and suppliers are saying no. Reports say local quarries and building firms are walking away, sending a clear message without a single protest sign.
And they say enough is enough, we don't want this anymore. Even local businesses have been refusing to deal with the mosque developers, refusing to supply building equipment and building materials that they need. Delivery drivers have been refusing to deliver the materials because people just don't want this here. And that's why the local community is saying we won't work with the developers of this mega mosque because our community does not need it. So we're here today to say to the local community, Britain First stands with you against the building of this mega mosque.
So this site behind me is where the £2.5 million super mosque is going to be built. We're attracting a lot of beeps from passing motorists, even though the weather is terrible and we've got our banner there. But
as a result, the project is now facing serious logistical setbacks. Key materials like concrete and stone have been held up, grinding progress to a halt. And according to the Islamic Centre's own spokesperson, the backlash seemed to gain momentum after GB News ran a highly critical segment spotlighting the development. In a recent YouTube video, a representative of the South Lakes Islamic Centre confirmed that concrete deliveries have been postponed, with some suppliers flat out refusing to work with them. He went on to reveal that even stone needed for the foundation has been denied. Construction that was scheduled to begin this week has now been completely stalled, with no clear resolution in sight.
أشهد أن محمد
To many in the local community, this isn't just a supply issue, it's a symbolic stand. It's being viewed as a grassroots rebellion, a powerful message that residents are no longer willing to silently accept top-down planning decisions that disregard local sentiment. What some are calling a boycott, others are celebrating as a quiet victory. The spokesperson, however, attempted to minimize the disruption, saying, "We've found alternative suppliers. It's just a minor delay of a few days." But for those closely watching the situation unfold, it's clear this runs deeper than a scheduling hiccup.
Alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuhu. Ramadan Kareem from the beautiful Lake District in the northwest of England, a place of exceptional natural beauty and a place that I'm proud to call home. I'm standing at the site of the first masjid in the Lake District. Muslims have actually lived and worked in this area for over 40 years, but we still have no masjid, no madrasa and no janaza facilities in a 50-mile radius. This piece of land was actually acquired during COVID times, and after some initial hurdles and setbacks, work is finally underway, as you can see. But what you see here could change without your help. We only have enough funds to last us till April, otherwise...
But despite the effort to downplay the disruption, the consequences are clearly being felt on site. The spokesperson didn't stop at delivery delays. He also issued a public plea for emergency funding, stating, "We are at a critical time in the project timeline. We have funding in place until April, and we request your support." This revelation has only intensified the spotlight on the project, highlighting a deeper issue simmering beneath the surface. For many, this situation reflects a broader frustration, one where large, community-changing developments are pushed forward without securing genuine public approval. The growing backlash suggests people are no longer content with being left out of the conversation. At its core, this issue goes far beyond missing shipments of stone and concrete. It's about a deeper question: do local voices still count? Planning permission for the Islamic Centre was quietly approved back in December 2022. Since then, the South Lakes Islamic Centre has promoted the development as a vital space, one designed to serve Muslim doctors, professionals, and the growing number of tourists visiting the area. But for many residents, that justification doesn't excuse the lack of open dialogue or community involvement in such a significant transformation. Officially, the centre is framed as a community hub, complete with spaces for prayer, education, events, and even burial grounds. But while that might sound straightforward on paper, the public reaction has told a different story. Online, the proposal sparked more than 30 formal objections. Local residents voiced strong concerns, not just about the sheer size of the development, but about whether such a large-scale project aligns with the unique character and heritage of the Lake District. For many, the fear isn't about religion, it's about losing the essence of a place they've long called home. As expected, some local councillors were quick to denounce the more vocal critics, accusing them of stoking division and demonising communities. But opponents argue that dismissing all dissent as bigotry is a convenient way to shut down legitimate concerns. The truth is, rural Britain is undergoing rapid change, and not everyone is on board. What makes this situation particularly striking is the form the resistance has taken. There were no placards, no marches, no organised petitions. The message came from the ground up. Tradesmen, suppliers and builders who quietly drew a line and said, "No, we're not taking part in this." Regardless of where you stand on the development itself, there's something undeniably powerful about people standing their ground, especially in a time when silence is often the easier choice. This isn't a story rooted in hate, it's a call for recognition. At its heart, this is about the right to be heard, the right to question sweeping changes to a community without being branded as intolerant or backward. It's about protecting the space for honest debate and ensuring that local voices still matter in decisions that reshape their lives. And that's precisely what we're witnessing now. It's not loud slogans or viral campaigns making waves, it's quiet, deliberate action. British builders have drawn their line in the sand, and regardless of whether this brings the project to a permanent halt, they've already sent a powerful message. The voices of ordinary people still count. The ground they stand on isn't just for building, it's for standing up. So, regardless of what David Lammy or the Labour government may believe, rural British communities are beginning to push back in their own way. It may not be loud or organised, but through the hands of builders, tradesmen and local suppliers, a quiet yet impactful resistance is taking shape. And the spotlight on Lammy doesn't stop at the Lake District. The Foreign Secretary is also facing intense scrutiny for racking up over £1 million in private jet expenses, all in just 3 months. As criticism mounts on multiple fronts, one thing is clear: public patience is wearing thin.
Today I can announce 3 further fronts in Labour's war on waste. First, we will crack down on Tory ministers' private jet habit. What is Rishi Sunak so scared of up there in his private jets? Meeting a vote.
But that's not even the most shocking part. Remember when Labour promised to spend taxpayers' money responsibly? This is yet another glaring example of the party falling short of its own pledges. Despite publicly vowing to crack down on costly ministerial travel, they appear to be doing the exact opposite. Between October and December 2024, David Lammy's air travel expenses skyrocketed to a staggering £1,200,000 sterling, most of it spent on private jets. For a party that once championed fiscal discipline, the numbers paint a very different picture. That £1,200,000 sterling figure breaks down to more than £14,000 sterling per day, most of it reportedly spent on ministerial jet travel, according to the Guido Fawkes political blog. If that doesn't scream hypocrisy, what does? Labour built its image on promises of reform, transparency and cutting wasteful spending, and yet here we are, watching the same behaviour they once condemned. Let's not forget, it wasn't long ago that Labour ministers were publicly slamming Conservatives for their reliance on private flights. Now, with the roles reversed, it seems those lofty pledges have taken a back seat to business-class convenience.
Had accepted donations of clothes. In the last few days, it's also emerged that you accepted free tickets for a corporate box to see the singer Sabrina Carpenter at London's O2 Arena this month. Is that what happened? And if you did, why are free clothes a no-no, but free concert tickets is a yes, please?
I went with a member of my family to see a concert a couple of weeks.
Back in October 2023, Rachel Reeves, now serving as Chancellor, stood before cameras and vowed to put an end to what she called the Tory minister's private jet habit. She pledged that under a Labour government there would be a serious clampdown on lavish air travel. Her words were clear: we will enforce the ministerial code on the use of private planes and save millions of pounds for taxpayers in the process. But with David Lammy's soaring jet bill, that promise now rings hollow, and it's becoming harder for Labour to defend the growing gap between their words and their actions. Angela Rayner, now Deputy Prime Minister, was just as vocal. She once slammed Liz Truss for using a private jet during her time as Foreign Secretary, saying it revealed exactly how little respect this Conservative government has for taxpayers' money. Labour didn't stop there. They also tore into Rishi Sunak during the general election campaign, calling him out of touch for using private planes and helicopters to crisscross the UK. But now, with their own ministers racking up even bigger bills, the criticism looks less like principle and more like political theatre. The same party that once condemned extravagance is now quietly indulging in it.
Deputy Speaker, let me update the House on our plans for air passenger duty. And I can see the right honourable gentleman's ears have pricked up. Air passenger duty has not kept up with inflation in recent years. So we are introducing an adjustment, meaning an increase of no more than £2 for an economy class short-haul flight. But I am taking a different approach when it comes to private jets. Increasing the rates.
So the question is, how can a Labour minister be doing the very thing his party fiercely condemned, and so soon into their time in office? It hasn't even been a year, and already the cracks are showing. David Lammy came under fire for his travel habits just weeks after taking office, when he opted for a private jet to attend a meeting in New Delhi. For a government that promised to break with the excesses of the past, it's starting to look a lot like business as usual.
This is another expenses story, and it's the MP concerned is Taiwo Owatemi, who's the MP for Coventry Northwest and is also a government whip, who voted recently in favour of the £5 billion worth of cuts to benefits and welfare payments.
Wow.
But it seems that she's getting a bit of a benefit of her own, because on top of her £94,000 a year salary, which was approved last week, 2.8% rise, and her expenses, which includes accommodation costs.
Yeah.
He's also claimed £900 in pet rent so that her pet cockapoo, Bella, can stay with her at a London accommodation.
This is absolutely bonkers. I mean, the public are going to be outraged at this. This is a party that has just decided to cut the welfare bill of this country and potentially hurt some of the poorest people in the country. And we've got an MP claiming expenses on their dog.
Yeah, not only that, everybody's struggling. Everybody who hasn't had benefits cut is struggling with their bills.
Yeah.
We're getting council tax going through the roof. And of course, there's the elderly people who had their winter fuel payment removed. The optics of this are very, very bad. I mean, I've had a little look since this front page dropped at pet tax or pet rent. It's payable if you live in an accommodation where the landlord says you have to pay an extra amount to have a dog living with you. Well, this is a separate home, and she has children and a husband, and I just sort of think, well, if I wanted to bring my pet to live in separate accommodation, I'd pay for it myself. It costs
Quite
about,
right.
Usually the usual bill is about...
But it doesn't stop there. Things have taken an even stranger turn. One of Labour's own Coventry Northwest MP, Taiwo Owatemi, who holds the title of Lord Commissioner of the Treasury, has been slammed as a disgrace after using taxpayer money to cover pet rent for her dog, Bella. Just weeks after the 2024 general election, she claimed an additional £900 sterling per year to keep her furry companion with her in her London rental. In a cost of living crisis, this kind of claim has sparked outrage, adding fuel to the growing perception that Labour's promises of responsibility and reform may have been little more than campaign soundbites. Bombshell documents reveal that Owatemi quietly submitted the pet rent claim back in August, bundling it in with her general housing expenses. The revelation has reignited public anger, drawing uncomfortable comparisons to the notorious 2009 MP expenses scandal, where, infamously, one MP even claimed for dog food. This latest pet for rent controversy is more than just an isolated embarrassment. It's a reminder that despite new faces and fresh promises, some old habits in Westminster die hard.
A wonderful holiday at his expense in New York. Why? Why would he want to give her that, and what good would that do the country?
Well, I expect, Richard, many of your viewers, and maybe you as well, have stayed at friends' apartments or flats or houses in the past. And I think it is reasonable that, you know, if you own a home in a beautiful city or place, that you lend it to your friends to have a holiday. I know that I've done that.
A Labour donor to a shadow minister.
Well,
can't you see the connection?
Well, I think it is perfectly reasonable that friends, if you're going on holiday, say you can stay in my apartment, and it's all declared properly. No one's trying to hide anything here. Everything was declared properly, and I think that's right. And I think it is also important that people that denote to political parties, that it's not, it shouldn't be a dirty word. Our politics relies on donations because the alternative is taxpayer funding for political campaigns. And I don't think anybody wants to see that when particularly we're going through a cost of living crisis. And so political parties, all political parties, rely on donors, big and small, to fund the leaflets that we...
Owatemi, like all MPs, recently received a generous pay bump, bringing her annual salary to £93,994 sterling. As an out-of-London MP, she's also entitled to claim expenses for work and accommodation, but the timing of her pet rent claim couldn't be worse. She's currently facing the challenge of calming unrest over the government's controversial proposal to slash £5 billion sterling from Britain's growing benefits bill. To critics, it feels like a classic case of double standards, tightening the belt on vulnerable citizens while bending the rules to make personal life more comfortable. It's stories like these that fuel public distrust and make people wonder, are MPs playing by one set of rules while expecting everyone else to follow another? If you found this political deep dive thought-provoking, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more hard-hitting political content you won't see anywhere else.